Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepski.
Hello again, everybody. It's me, your host, Joe Slepski, and welcome back to Joe on Joe. This is the only podcast where I cover every episode of the Sunbow cartoon, the DIC, even Extreme, and every issue of the Marvel Real American Hero G.I. Joe comic book, page by page, panel by panel. And this week is the most special episode of You on Joe you're ever going to want to hear. Now, You on Joe, that's right, it's you, the listener. You're the G.I. Joe fan. You love G.I. Joe. You love everything about G.I. Joe. You're the star of the show. Some of you dig the cartoon. Some of you like to collect the toys exclusively. Some of you are just into the comic books. Whatever it is you love about G.I. Joe, that's what You and Joe is here to talk about. So if you want to participate and be a guest, just like today's guest, this very special guest, please reach out to me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Joe on Joe Pod, or you can send me an email to joeandjoepod@gmail.com and let me know what topic you want to cover. The more specific you get, the better. If you're not sure of a topic, we will work together to figure one out. Now, while you're online, please give me a rate and review on your podcast app, Apple iTunes, what have you. It's very helpful. It helps grow the show. It raises you up in the rankings and more people see it. And then we get more special guests. Again, just like today's most special guest. Or if you're so inclined, you can visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/joeandjoepod, and you can help keep the show running there. We just got a couple new Patreons last week. Thank you guys so much for joining on. And speaking of that, let's hear from our wonderful sponsors, the Movies and a Meal podcast. In the beginning of time, the smallest organism gained sentience and thought to itself, I really need a good meal. Then, a bunch of other stuff happened, and finally the Lumiere brothers started showing movies in France. This was all the inspiration that fellow broadcasters Brad, Keith, and Ben needed to combine these two primal needs into the Movies and a Meal podcast. The Movies and a Meal is one of the most casual and relaxing film talk podcasts you could ever listen to. These three friends enjoy a good meal together while talking all about the movies. And not just reviews, they do favorite lists, comparison discussions, genre talks, anything and everything that you can think of. They've even broken their solemn promise inherent in the name and branched out into TV talk. So I love the variety of films they bring to the table. They cover new releases, classics, cult films, often in one episode. It's really a delight to listen to, and it has something for every movie fan out there to enjoy. So if you're looking to grow your podcast library, if you eat meals, and if you've ever seen a movie, then you should give Ben, Keith, and Brad a listen and subscribe to the Movies and a Meal podcast. They've been a great sponsor to this show. I love the Movies and a Meal podcast, and I'd like all of you to love them too. Now, I'm not bearing the lead here. This is the most special guest I'm ever going to have on Joe on Joe. I've been trying to get today's guest for over probably 7 years, over 6 years for sure, which is really strange because I've known this woman literally my entire life. That's right. Today you have the pleasure of a conversation with the none other than my mom, Mary Lynn Slepski. We sat down in my childhood bedroom and we discussed our shared experience of discovering G.I. Joe together. Mom was pivotal in my G.I. Joe journey, and we discussed that all here today. From my very first figures to, my very first G.I. Joe comic books, which happen to also be my first comic books, and then traveling all over Chicagoland to cons and shops and everywhere just to track down those comic issues that I needed. Mary Lynn was raised on the south side of Chicago. She grew up a huge Cubs fan. And as you're going to hear, to my surprise, actually, she was a young genre fan too. She's one of us. She and my dad, Ski, raised 3 kids, and now they're both enjoying their very best retired life. She loves her husband, her kids, her granddaughters, and I know one of the great joys in her life is giving to others. So you're going to hear a real delight in listening to her reminisce about bringing the joy of G.I. Joe into my young life. It's absolute evident in her voice. So I love Mary Lynn, and I know you're going to love her too. This is as close to my G.I. Joe origin stories you're ever going to hear on this show, so I'm very happy and very proud to share this with you today. Sit back, relax, and enjoy a discussion between a boy and his mom. We're talking G.I. Joe with Mary Lynn Slepski.
So when you were a kid, Mom, do you have any recollection of the large-scale G.I. Joe figures? Like, they would have come out concurrent with Barbie, though.
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, none of the guys in your neighborhood were down with it?
No. No.
Too busy running the streets of Chicago.
Running the streets. I didn't have any brothers, so I was the first one in the house to get a Barbie even, so...
Oh, yeah? Do you remember your first Barbie?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really? Was it anything special or just standard?
Just standard. Just standard.
And what did it mean to you?
Oh, it was so much fun. It meant a lot to me. But all my collection then went to my niece, who just trashed it, so... So it didn't mean much to her.
That's why you gotta be careful about, about legacy stuff.
Yes.
We have a lot of listeners who share their Joes with their children, and sometimes they say, "Oh, I let them blow them up," and sometimes you hear they know they got to keep care of the vintage ones.
Yeah.
That's why you buy 2 copies.
That's right.
Yeah.
Keep one in the box.
Right. So I've got 2 older sisters, and 3 years and 2 years older, and so they were way into Star Wars.
Star Wars.
And so was I, but they were into it before I was, obviously,
Right.
because they were into it before I was. And we had a sizable Star Wars collection.
We did.
Yeah.
Ships and
The large dolls and the small dolls and all that stuff.
All kinds.
I remember often going to Grandma Luer's house, and she would always give us a lot of the Star Wars toys. Was that through like S&H green stamps or anything, or was
No.
was she getting clues from quote Santa Claus?
Yes.
Yeah, because we would always
Yes.
expect Star Wars toys when we went to Grandma's
Yes.
house.
And she purchased them.
She did.
Yes. It wasn't me that bought them and gave them to her to give.
Oh, that's amazing. But she would get the
But I
tip.
would give-
She would get the tip.
I would give her hints. Yes.
So you're saying Grandma was not down with the goings on of Lucasfilm?
No. She had no idea. No. She just wanted to see her grandson happy.
Oh, we loved it though. We loved it. She absolutely. That was our Star Wars gift house. So as that was kind of dying down, that's when I started getting a better awareness of things I wanted to play with. So that was like a shared universe. Now it did have a Barbie.
Yes.
And it was a Ken.
It was a Ken.
Yeah.
Because the girls all had Barbies and they didn't want you playing with them and messing their hair up and everything. So I decided to purchase a Ken for you. He was a shaving Ken. You could shave him.
You totally could.
He had a curly afro.
Looked like David Hasselhoff.
Exactly like him. He should have got money off it, that's for sure.
He should have,
He
because he
should've.
100% was branded to look like David.
Branded.
Even I knew that at the time, that he was absolutely looked like David
him.
Hasselhoff.
Just
yeah.
looked like him.
Yeah. And then He-Man comes around,
Yes.
around 81, 82, before I got into G.I. Joe.
Right.
And you remember when we first...
There was a smaller doll.
Yeah, like six, he was
Smaller
like,
guy.
was he like 5 inches?
Yeah. It was the same body, just different heads. But we built on that. We had the castle and everything. Yeah.
Do you remember the Castle Christmas story?
Yes.
Tell it.
Well, I had it hidden.
Yeah.
And then you found it. And immediately it's for some cousin that I don't even give gifts to. Oh, no, that's for him. Everything was always for another cousin. Even with the girls, that was for another cousin. We always... And not only that, if they insisted it was for him, I said, it's going back.
Yes, it's going back. I absolutely
going
remember.
back.
There was, jumping forward a few years, there was one, and I think we eventually told you this, but I don't know if you remember this. Yeah, it's probably around 87, 88. You had bought me, because who doesn't love a walkie-talkie? Do you remember the walkie-talkie story?
Yes, and I hit him so bad I couldn't find him. Because I thought, I am not going to let him find this before Christmas. And then when I couldn't find them. I just looked everywhere for
But
them.
Lori and I found them.
Found them.
And then I didn't get them.
No.
And then we were both really confused and went back to look, and they were still there.
Yeah.
So we had until whatever the next holiday was, maybe it was Easter, I think.
Yeah.
We had that period of time to figure out how to gently hint that there were walkie-talkies in the downstairs in the like the little shutter
that shutter thing.
Shutter thing, yeah. That we had to gently hint that maybe there were walkie-talkies hidden down there, and then possibly the Easter Bunny could show up with them.
And bring them.
That was really funny.
That was a funny story. Yeah.
There was one time where you actually were buying something for someone else. It was not for me.
Right.
It was the Transformers Jetfire. That big old white jet. Do you remember this? Mm-hmm. And you had it, but it wasn't really hidden. It was just in the closet because it was for...
Jimmy, I think.
Oh, I thought it was for like a Secret Santa thing. Like for school.
Oh, I don't know. It could have been. It could have been.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Yeah, it could have
It was something like for a literally
Little- for a
absolutely
child.
was for
Yeah.
someone else.
Yeah, that could be the story. Yeah.
And after all the years of like, oh no, it's just for this person. Oh, if it's that person, or I'm taking it back or anything. You were honest. You were like, oh no, that's for the Secret Santa, or that's for the charity,
Yeah.
or whatever it was. And I didn't believe you.
And then when you didn't get it,
No, yeah, then I did get it. My head was blown. I 100% didn't believe it. It was like the mom who cried toy. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, that's obviously for me. I can't wait. I'm getting Jetfire for Christmas. This is going to be the best. And the Jetfire was not there.
not there.
Yeah, and you were like, you looked at me like, no, I told you. Like, I didn't, I wasn't trying to, was trying to lie to you. It was literally for, yeah, that was funny.
Very funny.
You still hide Christmas presents to this day.
I do. Did
Yeah.
you find any?
No, I didn't look. I didn't look.
Okay. They're all in that other room. Do not go in there.
Yeah.
I shop all year round.
How did you hide? And we're going to get to some of the early questions, but speaking of Christmas, how did you hide? Because listeners, I will try to dig up. I know I have some pictures digitally scanned of our Christmas, and we're talking the prime years. Listeners know this, of like 84, 85, 86, 87. Those were the prime G.I. Joe years. Those were the years where we'd walk down the Toys R Us aisle, and
Yeah.
that's all it was.
One big guy.
Just one big aisle of G.I. Joe. Where did you hide them? Because just the sheer quantity, like we're talking like one big thing, like a Castle Grayskull was huge.
Right.
So okay, I'll find that. Where did you possibly hide the sheer number
I
of
don't
G.I.
know.
Joe toys?
I suppose under my bed.
Times 3. Because the girls certainly got their share. You know,
They did get their
they got their share of stuff.
Because, of
too.
course, just like Barbie, he wanted to play with them. They wanted to play with Joe's toys, so
Mm-hmm.
everything was fair in our house.
Yeah, but they were into strawberry shortcake and
Yes.
you know, and,
yes.
and I remember the Darcy
Cabbage Patch
the
dolls.
Cabbage Patch dolls.
Yeah, that was a
Darcy,
big
remember
deal.
the Darcy doll?
Darcy doll. And Cabbage Patch was a big box. I'd go stand in line and then grab whatever. I mean, when I say whatever, I mean whatever. And then you go down the aisles and trade with other people.
Yeah.
You want this one? I got this one. It was crazy. Crazy time.
So like we don't have a house with like a lot of
No.
like hidden
No.
storage doors.
No,
and
under my
stuff.
bed and not up here, that's for sure. But the hall closet downstairs. Yeah, things like that.
Yeah, listeners, we are recording this in the room where it happened.
Yeah, we're all where it happened.
Yeah, we're in my childhood bedroom. I've gotten bigger. It has not gotten smaller. Well, we got all the nooks and crannies. I used to keep my Cobra Terrordrome over there, Air Sea Battle Platform there, my G.I. Joe base over there. So, do you remember the first time, I've told this story in the show, where the first time I was introduced to G.I. Joe was at a birthday party, probably around 1983, about 8 years old. It was a Showbiz Pizza over on 95th Street.
In Pulaski.
Yeah, it was 87th or 95th?
95th.
95th Street in Pulaski. And someone gave me a snake eyes.
Yeah, I believe it was your friends Bobby and Brian.
Awesome. That's awesome. Those are my neighbors. They were way. I've told that story where Brian stole Zartan from Showbiz from KB Toys, and he came home and he's like, "I got Zartan." And then like an hour later, I saw him. He goes, "I'm in trouble for stealing Zartan," and his mom made him take it back to KB.
There you go.
Yeah. So I mean, I'd never seen. I didn't know what this was.
No.
But he was just the coolest dude ever. And that's what they said to me. I said, if I remember, I was like, what is this? And their answer was, it's the coolest thing ever.
It was.
Yeah. And I have this memory of after that party going next door. Would that have been Venture or Zares?
Yes. Venture.
Venture. Mm-hmm. Literally going right next door to look for more of that dude. Do you remember this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they had those big end caps, and all
Sure.
that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I had to find out more about this. Mm-hmm. And then at some point, we must have discovered the cartoon. I definitely didn't see the cartoon before that toy, for sure. I think the next guy I might have gotten was either and. It was either Breaker or Snow Job, and that little snowmobile. Yeah, you don't have to remember that. That's okay. I wouldn't expect you to. But it was very early after that, because those were like the main three things that I played with for quite a long time. So I must have started with them watching the cartoon.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right, or did we go to Florida in 83?
Yes.
So that
Our first trip.
Yeah. And on that trip, you got me a copy of G.I. Joe #1, the comic book.
Right. To read on the plane.
Yes. Do you remember me being super enamored with it? Or
Yes. But then once we got to Florida, it got nicely put away until the trip home on the plane on the way home, because there was so much to see down there. We had never been to Florida. Even the shock of the trees, the palm trees and everything. And the humidity was shocking.
For sure.
Yeah. But, yes. And that's where I believe your comic collection started.
Yeah, it really is. I still have that book. It's still in good shape. The only thing, the middle page spine ripped out over the years. But that's quasi normal for that.
Right.
The rest of it's actually in really solid shape. But then I didn't realize, because it's very, if you ever look back at it, it's formatted very much like a magazine. So it is very, like if you were to pick up a monthly issue of Sports Illustrated, it's like that. So I didn't realize that it was like issue 1 of an ongoing story.
Right.
There's really nothing in that issue to say, read next issue.
Right.
So I didn't know that it was a thing.
Right.
I didn't know. So then I didn't go touch the G.I. Joe comic book then for like 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something like that. But then I was way into the toys. I got into the toys and things.
Right.
Do you remember the process of like shopping for this stuff? Was it me always driving things, or would you choose which things to get me, or was it always me going, I want that Jeep, I want this, I want that?
It was usually, well, you gave me hints, but I would usually go and buy what I thought you would like. But you gave me hints, what you like. And I'll tell you a cute story. When he was young like that, he decided to run away from home one time. And he took a suitcase, and he got as far as the driveway next door. And our neighbor said, "Joey, where are you going?" And he said, "I'm running away." He said, you need to go back home. And popped open, this suitcase popped open. It was nothing but toys in there. G.I. Joe toys, everything. Not one piece of clothing. Just all his toys laid all over the grass. He wasn't going too far.
But I was going to have a good time as far as wherever I went. I was going to have a good time.
He was taking his G.I. Joes and his He-Man, and everybody was going with him. I just stood on the porch laughing. He came back.
I think I used to run away a lot. I think one time, or try to. One time the threat was that he was going to enjoy my spaghetti dinner. And that's what, he's like, "I'm going to eat your dinner, Joe." And that was the impetus for me to turn back around and go like, all right, well then.
That's it.
If you're going to eat dinner, I guess I'm going to have to come home. Yeah.
And I used to take him often to the comic conventions. Me and him would go when he was younger.
Right.
Yes.
Which
was far to go. It was far from here.
Right. So fast forward, now I'm watching the cartoons, and I'm coming home every day to watch them and interrupting. I like the Cubs. I was always so angry when the Cubs game would interrupt G.I. Joe, because you would be home watching. Back then, listeners, if you guys may not know, the Cubs were always day games. They had no night games.
In '84, they were they were pretty good.
Yeah, they were very good. Yeah. And so
it was always on TV.
Yeah, so no game started, I think, later than like 1:00.
Right.
Like home games.
Right.
So that a good baseball game could finish by like 4:00, 3:30, 4:00.
Right.
And G.I. Joe was on at like 4 or 4:30, something in that range. So it was always cutting right up to it. Sometimes the game would end, but they'd still have to have their half-hour post-game wrap-up with Stoney and Harry and all that stuff. And I'm like, just go to the cartoon.
We don't care.
Yeah. So I'd rush home to do that. We were definitely getting into the toys, which I want to talk a little more about Christmas later. But then it was in Easter, from what I can guess, probably around 85 or 86. And do you remember this? It was in Easter. You got the little small digest book?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think maybe you got 2 or 3 or one or two of them or something like that. And I'm sorry, the Easter Bunny did.
Yes.
And do you recall my reaction to that? Do you have any recollection of that?
Well, you were very excited.
Yes.
Very excited. And that one he didn't ask for. The Easter Bunny did it all on her own.
Yeah, she found it.
Yeah.
On, I think it was at 7-Eleven.
Yes.
The then brand new 7-Eleven.
Exactly.
On a spinner rack.
Right.
I didn't know they were still making comic books. That was the thing, because I only had that one issue. I had no idea they were still making books. So, what I recall is saying to you, like, where did you get these? Because there was, like, issues. It was the Digest gang. It was, like, they reprinted, you guys know what I'm talking about. They call them, they collected, like, what was it, 4 or 5 issues, maybe, small format kind of things. So, but the numbers I had were like numbers 2, number 6, and something like that, telling me that there were other ones in the middle. So it was like, where did you get these? Can we go get them? And if I recall, we jumped at the car like the next day or something like that. Yeah, okay, not on Easter Sunday, but we jumped in the car like the next day, and you were like, "Well, I got them at the 7-Eleven."
Yeah.
And we grabbed everyone that was there, but it wasn't all of them.
No.
So you started taking me.
Oh, to the comic shop.
Yeah.
And the
all over town.
All over town.
Yeah.
Looking for them.
I remember we went to one of the first trips to a shop. We went to the one on Pulaski, 120th and Pulaski, the one over the bridge by the go-kart rack race. And we were on our way to like a picnic. Or maybe like an ADSC picnic or something. Or church, something. We were on our way.
Picnic.
Yeah. And we went in there, and we're surrounded by real comic books.
Yes.
A comic book shop. And I don't know if you recall this, but I remember distinctly saying to the guy, I only wanted these digests. And him saying to me, well, we have the actual comic books right here. And me not understanding that and going, no. I just want these digests. And he was like, I got one. But the real issues are right here. And I didn't click. It did not click in my head. No. So you started taking me to comic conventions.
Yes. And I want to say when we were standing in line, Stan Lee walked by and he blessed Joe with future years of comics because he stopped and had something to say to him. What did he say to you, Joe?
I was wearing a Batman shirt. This was 1989. I was 14 years old. It was the year of Batman. And he looked and he said, "Hey, that's the wrong shirt." And I was you got it. You got what he was doing. I was so embarrassed. I was like, I want to wear a Batman shirt to meet Stan Lee.
But who knew we were going to run into him like that in the hallway?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the things it was much smaller then.
Yes.
The first one, I don't know if this the first one I remember going to, but like the first big one I remember going to. It was at like the Hilton by O'Hare.
By Rosemont.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Across from the McDonald's there. And
right.
It was so small.
Small.
And the meetings, like the room to meet Stan Lee was in like a meet conference room.
Right, a conference room. Yeah. It was crazy. So the line was out the door down the hallway to meet him.
Yeah.
And as he was walking in there, he stopped.
Yeah.
And that was it.
I still have all of those back then, the tickets, listeners, that they would give you. If you go to a comic shop now, they give you like a small little, 3x2, little badge or something, or sometimes just a wristband, whatever. They used to give you giant, 1/3 of a piece of printer paper size ticket that you would have to pin to your shirt to show that you were there. But we also everyone used it to get autographs on.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so I've got every Comic-Con ticket, because that started a trend for me. So when they switched to the smaller size, I would still get autographs on the back of the smaller ones. I've got 20 years of Comic-Con tickets saved at home.
Wow.
With all kinds of signatures on it. Stan Lee and all those dudes that we met early on that I didn't even understand who they were.
Right.
That was way early. So G.I. Joe was it for me. That was my comic. Mm-hmm. For like at least a solid year, it took me to find stuff like the X-Men.
Right.
It was just, I had a paper route. So all my paper route money would go to G.I. Joe.
All of it.
All of it. There's a very specific memory about comics. I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember the shop on 95th that used to be near...
Cicero.
Yeah, they used to be right next door to the music place. Mm-hmm. So when you would take the girls to get sheet music for their flutes, you drop me at the comic shop.
We went there many times.
Yeah. Do you remember the angst that I had? Because I spent, I think it was either $10 or $20 on one comic book. It was a big deal.
Yeah, well, sure.
Yeah, in retrospect, it probably was G.I. Joe 21, which listeners would know that's the silent issue. That's a really important issue. But in my brain tells me it was actually 22. It was the Destro playing chess issue. But I don't really recall. Like, there's something in my brain that's not flipping. For some reason, I don't think that was my 21 buy. But it was expensive. Like, at the time, it was a hot book. And I had so much agita over it. $10? Maybe it was 20, but I think it was $10. I was like, oh, I don't know if I can buy this. Oh. Do you have any idea how much comic books cost today?
No.
One singular brand new comic book?
I haven't bought any lately.
$4 or $5.
Oh, wow.
The agita that I have.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. It's a lot.
That is a lot.
So, yeah. So we would go to shop and pick up all the old back issues.
And many times that he would call ahead and just put them on at that comic shop.
Yeah.
Put them on hold for Joe.
Yeah. Do you remember ordering mail order comics from New England? Because I had to have your help with that. Because it was from New England comic books. They came out with it was like a catalog they would publish like once a year. And so you would go through and they would put a price. It was so weird because
my memory of it was that you would always wait for the mailman to come to deliver stuff that you were waiting for.
Oh, yeah.
And then he used to go to the corner even sometimes, and the mailman would bug him.
So that's a story I've told on this. Do you remember the X-Wing part, the TIE Fighter part for Star Wars?
Yes.
That it broke?
Yes.
Can you tell that?
Oh, well, I remember you waiting for it.
Yes.
And that mailman was not happy to see this little kid. Shame on him.
It never showed up. I mean,
no.
Because like I've said on the show, I think you just sent a piece of our TIE Fighter broke, and I think my mom, just being a good mom, wrote him a letter and saying, hey, this broke, can you send me a replacement part?
I did.
But it wasn't for any official channel with self-addressed stamped or return postage or anything. So they probably got it, and they probably got a million of those, and they probably threw it away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Don't tell me that. Yeah. I in my world, it was, we ordered a new one. Where is it? And you, mailman, aren't bringing it.
He was not a happy mailman.
No, he was not. No. Mm-hmm. Part of the toys had mail-away stuff. Do you remember those flag points? Like S&H green stamps?
Oh, sure. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you would be clipping coupons, and I would be clipping flag points right next to you.
Yes.
Do you remember the process of sending away for those? Mm-hmm. We got like the Manta, which was like
and all we had to do is pay for shipping.
Yeah. Yes. Super cheap.
Correct.
Yeah. I believe we ordered Duke. We got through mail away, the blonde guy. The Manta, which was the surfboard with the, what do they call it? The sail on it. It's like a sailboard thing. I think we did I think I got my Skyhawk, which is a little flying plane through it. Mm-hmm. My mom's nodding, listeners. I think she's this is all coming back to her.
It's a little bit.
Yeah, I think we got Cobra Commander through that too.
What I'm thinking is, so them little things were his coupons.
Yeah, they were.
Exactly.
Totally coupons.
Yeah.
So Christmas would be just all Joe toys. All Joe toys. Would you shop year round for them? Or would you go
all year round.
So you would?
Yes. I still do to this day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not just in one big lump.
No. All year round. Start in the beginning. Before Christmas even.
Really?
Yes.
For next year?
Yes, for next year. Well, I don't know if Joe ever talks. He's got a couple dogs that are just adorable.
They're the best.
Yeah, well, see, I already have their Christmas presents for next year.
They're frequent.
And it's not food. I'm just clarifying. I get that. I wait to the end to get that.
They're frequent guest stars on Joe and Joe.
Are they?
Yeah. Absolutely. One of them portrayed Junkyard the dog.
Oh, that's funny.
We needed a barking dog, so
and did a fine job.
Oh, I don't know if I've told this story on the show. I needed to get Shirley to bark to play Junkyard.
Yes.
She barks 100% of the time when there's doorbell rings or when the mailman comes. So I was in a time crunch and I needed to order dinner. So I ordered dinner specifically to have the guy ring the doorbell, and I had Shirley mic'd up and the house was silent and I was waiting for dinner to arrive. And now in this day and age of COVID, they just do doors. They just leave it at the door. They don't ring the doorbell.
Yes.
And also, we live in a place where our address is a little wonky, so people sometimes have trouble finding the place. So I had to make sure that it was, please ring the doorbell on the note, and I made sure the address. Well, the guy showed up, and he texted me, and he goes, hey, I can't find your place. So I just texted him back. I'm like, it's in the courtyard. So I'm ready. So then, he doesn't ring the doorbell, though. He just texts me, goes, all right, I'm here.
Oh.
No, I wrote, please ring the doorbell. And he wrote back, I'm downstairs. And I wrote, please ring the doorbell. I was such a jerk. I just needed someone to ring the doorbell.
And did she?
Oh, yeah, she totally performed. Absolutely. Any barks you hear on Gia Colombo are 100% surely based on me telling a doorman, please ring the doorbell.
Yeah.
Delivery guy, please ring the doorbell.
Right on point she was.
Yeah, oh, she's good. She's good for that. Do you remember any of the characters at all? We've talked about Snake Eyes a little bit. Remember him?
Oh, yeah, I remember Snake Eyes.
He was my favorite.
Yes.
He was the best.
And what I remember of G.I. Joe, it wasn't like the He-Man and all that, with the same body and a different head.
Yeah.
G.I. Joe figures were different.
Yeah.
They were all different.
They all had their own unique personalities.
Yeah.
And Cobra guys.
Body shaped.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
So that means they went out of their way to make quality
Totally.
toys.
Yep.
Compared to mass production Mattel.
Look at Mary Lynn taking shots at Mattel.
Well,
Pro Hasbro.
what can I say?
You know,
what can I say?
The truth hurts, Mattel.
Right.
Yeah. That's fabulous. Any memories of me like playing with them, like just like because I played with them a lot,
A lot, and you usually close your door. You wanted privacy.
It's true.
Yeah, you want nobody bugging you.
I rarely played outside with them.
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
and he always wished he had a brother to play with.
I would.
His G.I. Joes.
I would sometimes play with Bobby and Brian.
Right.
But I wanted to keep them in good shape.
Yes. They were not reliable.
No, but I love Bobby and Brian. I've said on the show before, anyone can reach out to Bobby and Brian Powell. Last time I heard them, they were living in Phoenix. God bless them. I'd love to connect with them.
Yes.
But no, they didn't. They beat up their toys. I was always
did not appreciate what they had. Did not take good care of their stuff.
I recall, I think it was Breaker, like literally 2 times losing a character. One was Breaker, because I ended up finding him and he was half broken, so I ended up having do you remember the trauma? Breaker. Do you remember me ever exasperating about?
Yeah, he was real upset. I do remember him being upset about a lot of stuff. If nothing broke or a comic had a crease in it, if it was bent somewhere, yeah, he would be really upset.
I used to get my comics in the shoe boxes.
Yes, 50 pounds each box would weigh.
Well, years later,
it's right above our bedroom, and I always thought they were going to come through the floor. And then the Southtown headline would be, Superman crushed Mom and Dad. G.I. Joe killed him in the bed. And that'd be it.
Son grows up to be Batman because parents crushed.
Crushed, right.
By own comic collection.
Right.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, absolutely.
I remember we had a problem with the roof and water was coming down.
Oh, yeah.
And that is what I was worried about. Nothing else up here but his comics.
Oh, I appreciate
carried
that.
Them
You
down.
did. You carried them all down. I think I was probably
as
in
the
college
waters
or something.
came through the roof, it was terrible.
Yeah. Eventually it was, when post-college and all that, and it was time to move out, I believe Dad said, I'm afraid we're going to die. Can you please get these out of my house? And I said, you got it.
Yeah.
No, you guys were always great. Whenever anyone shares their stories of, parents throwing out their things or, whatever, you guys were on it.
He should say, Mom was on it.
Mom was on it.
His father would throw it out in a minute.
That's very true. No shade, but very true. You were very protective of that stuff. And I appreciated it for sure. I absolutely appreciate it for sure. To this day. Do you remember the summer, I learned about rockets?
No. Tell me a little
where we
more.
started building the rockets in the back.
Yes.
And do you recall me strapping them to the G.I. Joe toys to see how they worked? That's the only time I was so enamored with the rocketry. That's the only time I would ever destroy a G.I. Joe toy to this day.
Yeah, but they worked. I mean, they didn't destroy the G.I. Joe, but the rocket worked.
Yeah, they totally worked. And I put it on the Thunder machine because it had a rocket thing in the back. So in my brain, I'm like, well, it's meant to have a rocket. Mm-hmm. So I put a rocket on the bottom, and that's my Thunder machine was the only G.I. Joe toy that was genuinely broken. Because I was hurtling it down the sidewalk into fences. But let's just say, the Thunder Machine works really well with the rocket strap to it. It went in a straight line. And then eventually it went up in the air.
Up in the air.
And then it fell down and broke.
Yes.
But it was worth it.
It was worth it, yeah.
Very worth it. Very worth it. I was Snake Eyes for one Halloween.
Oh, you were? Yes, right.
I tried to be Snake Eyes,
Yes.
and it didn't work very well. So I just became a ninja.
Ninja. That's correct. Well, I used to dress them up they were all three, they matched. Such as Pez dispensers. One was Batman, one was Mickey Mouse, one was Pluto.
Adorable, and what a great idea.
Adorable. And the neighbors would always come out. What are the Slepskis today? But that year, everybody, they all wanted to be something different. And I said, okay, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But
So I tried really hard to be a ninja.
Yeah.
Or I wanted to be Snake Eyes.
Snake
specifically.
Eyes, right.
But as we were putting the costume together, we just couldn't get it together.
No.
We couldn't, because it was the year that his second look came out with the sash and the wolf.
Yes.
And we just couldn't get it together.
We used your karate outfit.
Yeah. I finally got a black belt.
You did.
Because we dyed it black.
You did.
So I went as a ninja.
Right.
Not being able to put it together as Snake Eyes. And then I think it was the year before, maybe the year after. Maybe it was the year before we did that with the same outfit we used to be Luke Skywalker from Jedi.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I don't know which one came first, but yeah.
But he made a really good Indiana Jones one year. Yeah, I carried the hat from Disney in Florida on the plane.
Is that where we got the hat from?
I did, for you, for a souvenir. Yeah. But I carried it because I didn't want to get smushed.
Right.
And he made a good one. He looked really good.
Bought me a real whip.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Borrowed your friend's dad's leather jacket.
Jeff's, yeah, and gloves. I think we used his gloves and leather jacket.
He looked great.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a fun end of year. We did the fake beard stubble like makeup on it. Yeah, that was good. Yes, I mean there's just so many toy centric memories around that age. When you were 10, think back. Think back to what would that have been? 1979? You young lady, you?
1961.
61. Was it Barbie for you, or what pop culture thing? Maybe it wasn't a toy, but what thing were you enamored with?
Well, I collected monster kits where you glued them together and painted them and everything.
You did?
Yes. I had the Mummy. I had Frankenstein. Of course, my mother didn't save them like she should have.
I never knew this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. As soon as I saved enough money, I went up to 71st and Western and bought me another kit. And, I loved doing that.
You were a monster kid?
Yeah.
Would you watch
you can still find them online.
Yeah.
Yeah. These kits, you could find them online.
Yeah, they've reproduced them over the years.
Right. The Mummy, Frankenstein, Dracula. I had about 5 of them, I think. Because it took a while to put them together and paint them if you wanted to do it right. The paint job. Mm-hmm. And really enjoyed it. I enjoyed that.
Wow.
Beside Barbie.
So were you watching the Universal monster movies on when they were on TV?
Oh, yeah. Any kind of scary movies. I love scary movies. Black and white ones, colored ones. I love scary movies.
You do. I know you do. You showed us Halloween when we were way too young.
Yeah, way too young.
Because you loved Halloween.
I did.
I didn't know you were a monster kid like that.
Oh, yeah.
That's crazy great.
Yeah, it was fun. It was something to do. It was your collection.
Yeah. And you were the youngest of 4.
4 girls, yeah. They never did nothing like that, the other ones. But I enjoyed it thoroughly. But they didn't get saved.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, not everything survives.
No.
Yeah. That's really wild. Did you ever read, famous monsters of film, like the magazines? Did you ever read the magazines that went along with it?
No, I don't think so. I just enjoyed building, painting, and such like that.
Oh, wow. That's really cool.
Yeah. Well, even today, I'll get a kit from Michael's where you put it together and paint it or something.
Yeah, you've got an artistic streak.
Yeah.
You were painting a few years ago.
I was painting.
Do you still do that at all?
No, that business went out.
Oh, you would go to one of those...
Sipping... Yeah,
sipping wine? Was it the painting or the wine, Mom?
Well, you had to be half drunk in order to paint. That was it. If you didn't have enough wine in you sat there looking at the thing like, I can't do this. But I did many of them.
Yeah.
Oh, that one I framed over there. That's one.
Yeah,
I
can't see it from here, but I've seen it. You were good.
Yeah, well, some of them.
You were good.
Not all.
You threw away all the bad ones. You're like, Joe, you don't understand.
No,
I did 500 of them. You've only seen 2.
My favorite was a Halloween one, but I did enjoy that.
Oh, that's really neat.
Mm-hmm.
That's really neat. Didn't you tell me once you had a chimpanzee as a kid? Did you have a monkey or something?
Stuffed animal. No,
Oh, I
never.
thought you told me that
No.
you guys had a monkey.
No. We didn't even
Really?
have a dog.
I swear.
My mom wouldn't even let us have a
you
dog.
told me you grew up with a monkey.
No, that's not true.
Well, I'm gonna cut this out.
Okay.
Did you go riding horses?
Oh yeah, I loved horses. Loved them. Every time I went up to Wisconsin, I would try to get on a horse up there somewhere. And then when we were kids, a horse used to go down the street, stop, and you get your picture taken.
In Chicago.
Yes, in Chicago. And then my mom, she sent it up to her mom and dad. And I lived in cowboy boots. Lived in them.
Wow.
Instead of, I just wake up in the morning and put them cowboy boots on.
We're looking at a picture right now of what you were 3, 4? Here?
Maybe a little bit older. Yeah.
On a
Maybe
pony.
little bit older. See, this was
The
this
happiest-
is your
happiest person ever.
granddaughter, Mary Lynn. So this was one that my mom sent to her parents.
Yeah.
And they always had it up in the... Wonder how the other 66 other grandchildren felt like that.
66. Your
First cousin,
my
66.
grandmother had 12, 11 siblings. She was one of how many?
Well, there was 16. But,
16.
But two died very young.
Yeah.
2 died very young.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
And then one was adopted. One of them was adopted.
that seems like Wisconsin had a lot of free time on their hands.
Too much.
Too much. They needed some
Set of
they needed
triplets.
some GI Joe in their life.
Well, it was either that and go drink it at the bar. That was
Or sometimes one preceded the other.
Yeah, that's right. And they either had a bar up there or they had a farm. That was it.
No.
That was the employment. But recently, about a couple years ago, I went horseback riding, and that will be the last time because this body is too old for that. I kept saying, "Where's the barn? Where's the barn?" But I always wanted to do that, ride a horse again. This was in Arizona. We were in the desert, so it was a little warm, and I just wanted to get off that horse.
You're saying horse riding's a young man's game.
Yes. That'll be the last time.
Strangely, that's something that GI Joe. GI Joe had a lot of animals. They had Junkyard, the dog. They had Timber. They had Spirit, the eagle. There was a bobcat. There was alligator. No horses. Strangely, that I can think of, like out of the main line. Yeah, this is the part when I get an email from a listener going,
Yes.
in 2002 they released the Desert Joe. Okay, I'm talking the OG line. Yeah, the OG line. They never I've never seen them do a horse, and I don't recall them ever seeing one. That's really interesting though, because horses were mainstays of
Transportation.
and all these action lines.
Sure.
Remember the Lone Ranger?
Yes.
Do you remember meeting Clayton Moore at the mall?
Yes, we did. We
Yeah.
did. Yes.
And it was around the release of the movie.
Sure.
And he was going mall to mall.
Yes, he was.
And he gave me an expended 22 shell, and I kept it on my dresser because I met the Lone Ranger,
Yeah,
and I
you
got
did.
that 22 shell casing from the Lone Ranger.
Right.
Jumping back to GI Joe, when it was time for me to put everything away, which would have been about like 88, 89 ish, it was around that time. I remember my last guy I went to. So if that was Venture, this was theirs?
Kmart.
Or the one on 111th Street?
Oh, Zayers.
Yeah, the one with the evil devil worship after they shut down. You know
Yeah.
this? Yeah, you know
Yeah.
that story. Yeah, listeners, Zaire, 111th Street, Oaklawn, devil worship.
Yeah.
But
After
after they shut down.
it down.
Yeah.
It was an empty building.
Yeah, and people would go in there with goat's heads. That was the story.
That was the story.
I have no
Whether
idea.
that's
No,
true
that's true or not.
No.
No one knows. But yeah, so I got my last G.I. Joe there, which was Snake Eyes. I still have him on card because I never opened him because that was like my ceremonial, like it's time to put things away. So that Snake Eyes V3, yeah. So then, do you remember? Was I sad? Was I bummed out? Do you have any recollection of this? Because it was a big. I remember it being a big step for me because I was like, I think I gotta stop playing G.I. Joes.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna read the comic book, but I gotta stop playing G.I. Joes.
No, I think you moved on to other things. You had other interests.
I was starting to play football.
Football. That was the main thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, constantly.
And comics were taking over.
Correct.
Is really what it was.
Yeah.
Instead of spending the money, paper route money or allowance money.
Yeah.
I was putting all of that towards comics, so I didn't have any money to put towards G.I. Joe anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I don't remember you being. It was time to move on. That's
Yeah.
how it seemed like. We all have to give up something.
Yeah.
Take new interests.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Little did I know.
Yeah. Because I believe
30
like Star Wars took
Yeah.
over your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
30 years later, I'd be back doing this.
Joe on Joe. And I'm such a proud mother of Joe Slepski.
Thank you. I did not pay her to say that,
No.
but I think that's a great way to wrap this conversation up. Mary Lynn Slepski, Mom, thank you so much for being a guest today on Joe and Joe.
Thank you for being my son.
Oh, it means so much to me. Mwah. And now you Joe, and Joeing is half the battle.